The Indianapolis Colts could bolster their pass rush room with a productive edge rusher from Texas Tech, but not the one you're thinking of. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network around. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of horseshoehuddle.com and your boots on the ground in Indianapolis this week. We are back with yet another prospect spotlight video for you guys. And today we're going all the way down to Texas Tech to talk about Romello Height, the edge rusher who posted over 10 sacks this past season with that top tier defense, one of the best defenses in all of college football yet last year. Now, he wasn't as productive as his counterpart, David Bailey, who is all likelihood going to be a top 10 pick. But Romelo Height had a very good season in his own right. Very fascinating career, though, if you look back on just his journey through the college ranks. A bit of an older prospect, 24 years old. I think he's going to be 25 as a rookie, and spent time at Auburn, USC, Georgia Tech, and then finished off this last year at Texas Tech. So he took full advantage of the transfer portal and was basically a mercenary for hire the last couple years. Come in here, rush the passer for you, and do what I do. He measured in at the combine today at 6'3", 239 pounds with 32.25 inch arms as well. And we're going to see some of his workouts on display later today. He should test as one of the better movers, especially with that weight. And yeah, Romelo Height is a guy that I've been a bit lukewarm on in this process. Obviously, when you're playing alongside someone like David Bailey, it's going to open up a lot more opportunities for you. But it's no question how talented Height is on film. He is a very bendy and elusive pass rusher with fluid hips and the ability to win inside and out and also turn the corner on the edge. I've actually seen some analysts that I respect in the industry talking about Height being a better overall pass rusher than David Bailey just because of the natural fluidity that he has in his game and the ability to be a speed rusher, kind of like another shot at like a Kamoko Toure who missed earlier in Chris Ballard's tenure. I don't know if Height is, going to be cursed with such a bad injury that Toure was cursed with, but kind of a similar type of shot of a player where a little undersized, a little skinny off-ball line, or a guy who can play some off-ball linebacker, play off the edge, and rush the passer with his blend of speed, quickness, and also kind of longer arms for his skinnier frame. Finished last season with 11 and a half tackles and 10 sacks, again, for that Red Raider defense that was just lethal all season long to opposing offenses. And yeah, I think there's just some really interesting aspects of the game. Like I mentioned with the fluidity that in his ability to rush as a speed rusher, I think he does use his arms fairly well. Again, he's a guy with over 32-inch arms off the edge, which is pretty good for his size. Uses them to set up his speed moves, and then I think he's one of the better coverage ends in this draft as well. He can sink his hips into coverage. He can get into passing lanes if asked to drop. And when we look at this Colts defense last year, they asked their defensive ends to drop into coverage at a near like 10, 11, 12% rate. I mean, I think Latu was actually at like a 13% rate last year of dropping into coverage. So if you want to get a little bit faster on defense, quicker, and just more agile on defense, I think a player like Romello Height allows you to really buy into this like Brian Flores style of approach that Lou Anarumo certainly attacked the NFL with last year. So not exactly what Lou has looked for in the past, and we'll get into that a little bit more to close out this show. But he is a guy who can do the things that Lou was asking his defensive ends to do. When we look at what Samson Ebukam was having to do in coverage last year as a defensive end, that's just not feasible. But Romello Height, a guy who, again, in his 239 pounds, with the fluidity, with the quickness of his feet, with his long arms, this is a guy who can get into those passing lanes and be a productive player on the backside of Leatu Latu. So, yeah, again, I'm not going to sit here and say like this is a guy you take at 47 and you say, okay, our edge rush is fixed because Romello Height's coming in here. But when we're talking about adding waves of pass rushers to the Colts, I think a player like Height can be part of the solution rather than part of the problem like we saw with some of those guys last year. So he is a big part of adding speed and just finesse. And even again, like a little bit younger. I know he's an older prospect, but an older prospect is still younger than the Kwity Paye's, Taekwon Lewis's, and Samson Ebukams that the Colts had last season. So get a little bit younger, get a little bit faster in the front seven, and a player like Height, who should test fairly well this evening, would add a little bit more of that quickness and that ability to win quick as a pass rusher and generate pressure in that front seven. I think that's what the Colts are looking for this offseason. So Romello Height, I think the film is pretty good overall. Again, the pass rusher that can win inside and out with this quickness and his explosion off the snap. But coming up, we're going to talk about his overall fit with this Indianapolis Colts team and how he is a very different player from what Lou Anarumo has liked in the past. But that might be a good thing. It might be kind of where the Colts are trying to go with this different approach on defense going forward. But first, workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position that you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on, you need the right hire. This is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, from skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping that the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that just says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, and more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And as the new year gets going, a lot of people are trying to simplify their routines, and dinner is a big one. Between busy work days, cold winter nights, and packed schedules, having an easy, reliable dinner plan makes a huge difference. That's where Home Chef comes in. Home Chef takes the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door with easy-to-follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. And it's easy to see why. Meals come ready to fit your schedule. 30-minute recipes, oven-ready trays, or quick lunches. There's over 30 weekly options, including family-sized meals and different dietary choices. Everything arrives pre-portioned, so there's less prep, less mess, and no wasted food. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Must be an active subscriber to receive that free dessert. And finally, ever want to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right, flights, tickets, and the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make that deep run, this is a perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds an extra layer of excitement to every single game down the stretch. And now, not only can you pick cash, but it could also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Alrighty, Locked On Colts Everydayers, we are back with this Prospect Spotlight, a series that Jake and I have kicked off to highlight individual players in the 2026 NFL draft that we think fit this Colts team and guys that you should keep an eye on come draft day. We've talked about a lot of edge rushers, a lot of linebackers, a couple of receivers in here. I've snuck in a couple offensive linemen as well. So we are getting through the gauntlet of players, just like these players are going to be getting through the gauntlet at the NFL Combine this week. So we'll see how a player like Romello Height tests this evening. But just to talk about him more as a player, again, I mentioned the speed and the quickness, and that is something that Lou Anarumo really hasn't valued much in his career as a defensive coordinator. We look back to his time with the Cincinnati Bengals, and they're getting these 260 plus defensive ends from Trey Hendrickson, Cam Sample, Joseph Osai, Sam Hubbard. And we even come over here to Indy with JT Tuimoloau and Leatu Latu. He has liked the bulk at defensive end, but we saw this change in Lou Anarumo last season where he asked his defensive ends to drop into coverage a bit more than he ever really has. He brought blitzes more than he ever really has in the NFL. He has leaned into this like Brian Flores level of approach where we're going to show a lot, we're going to do a lot, we're going to drop different guys into coverage. And even if we are bringing four, you don't know who the four guys are that we're bringing. And to do that kind of style of defense, you kind of need the guys that Brian Flores has at defensive end. We look over at the Minnesota Vikings, right? And they're doing this style of attack with Dallas Turner, a freak athlete who can run like a linebacker. Andrew Van Ginkel, a guy who played a lot of outside linebacker in his career. Jonathan Grenard played a lot of outside linebacker at Florida. Like these are these hybrid, super athletic players. And we look at what the Colts were doing with that last year. Leatu Latu is very capable of doing that with his 3 interceptions and his ability to get into these passing lanes. But after that, Kwity Paye, mostly a down lineman. Samson Ebukam, I think if he were 5 years younger and not having a torn Achilles, could have been fine for this. But that's just not the nature of the reality right now. And then Tyquan Lewis, a guy who, again, like 5 years earlier, maybe could have been better, but he was a bit older. So I think if the Colts want to keep going in this path with their defense, yes, you want to have some bulk at defensive end, but a player like Romello Height, who moves like a linebacker, but can also rush the passer with his speed, I think can be a big asset for this team. It can be your Andrew Van Ginkel type of player, and honestly, if Romello Height turns into a Van Ginkel type of player, that's a very productive career for him. He's been a very good player in the NFL. So I'm not trying to make that one-to-one comp there. But what I am saying is if you want this style of approach on defense, you can't be putting 265, 270-pound guys on the end unless they're these superb, like superstar athletes that you're getting out of the draft. It can't be 30-plus-year-old defensive ends. So if that is the path that Lou Anarumo wants to go with this defense, I think a player like Romello Height could fit exceptionally well, even if he does break the mold that Anarumo has gone with in his entire career. So that's why I'm kind of highlighting Romello Height today, where it's like maybe going into last season, I wouldn't have even thought of Romello Height, but after seeing what Lou Anarumo did in 2025, it makes me think about it in a different way. And that's the ever-changing process of evaluating the draft, of doing stuff like Build a Ballard and really evaluating what these guys do is they change their philosophies quite a bit, and you have to roll with the punches. And I think that this could be something that Lou Anarumo is changing with. In terms of where the Colts would have to get a player like Height, I have seen his projection all over the place, like everybody in this draft class. He could be someone who does go in the middle of the second round, but he could also be a player who goes in round 3 or round 4. I mean, we have seen NFL teams, particularly the Colts, actually be a little bit wary of players who use a transfer portal like this to bounce around to place. The Colts actually haven't taken many transfer portal players since it became just the wild, wild west in the college level. So we could see a player like Height fall into like round 4. And I think if he's there, that this is a perfect place to take a chance on him. I know we're saying this about most guys on here, and the Colts need 30 round 4 picks to really draft all of them. But I think he could be an intriguing fit here if you get into like late day 2, early day 3, just because, again, he fits what the Colts want to do. And if you're just going to have him as a sub pass rusher that can occasionally drop into coverage and be an asset on blitzing, you can mug him over the A gaps on some of these blitz designs and do some really fun things with him. I think this could be a really cool fit with the Colts. So while it's not a perfect fit on paper, not a perfect one-to-one fit, and definitely breaks some of Ballard's molds with the transfer portal in recent years, I think Romello Height, with his production last year and with what the different aspects of what he could bring to the Colts, could be an intriguing fit in the 2026 NFL draft. But I'm going to let you guys see him tonight at the NFL Combine. Again, we're going to get linebackers and defensive linemen working starting at 3 p.m. So this should be up before 3 p.m. So I am still talking about the future then. But watch how he tests at these things. Watch how he runs the circle drills and how his hips bend and how his ankles bend, and just see that fluidity on display and see if you come away a fan of Romelo Height as well. But thanks again for tuning in today to this bonus episode of Locked On Colts. We'll be back yet again tomorrow and also later today as well. Make sure you subscribe to our show so you get all the latest episodes. If you don't already, follow at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on social media. And if you never miss an episode, then remember the Everyday Club is built for you. Get Locked On Colts audio ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and much more. Head to lockedoncolts.supercast.com to join the club or follow the link in our show notes right now. Jake and I will return later today with our normal show, our normal 30-minute show, talking all about the Anthony Richardson trade request. So make sure you are checking that out.